Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished professional from California, USA, Lisa Perry. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Lisa is a Senior Director, Product Marketing and Brand Strategy. She has worked with several global brands across a vast cross-section of businesses. So, Lisa, before we talk branding, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Yeah, well, I help companies when their sales start to fizzle using consumer trends and behaviors coupled with data analytics to innovate their approach to marketing. And as you mentioned, I've worked across a number of industries, and I started out my career in consumer packaged goods, working for Coca-Cola and ConAgra, helping to reposition 50 and 100-year-old brands that were declining by driving innovation. And that was a really great kickstart to my career. And then I transitioned into the gaming industry,
Okay.
which was booming at the time, working for Activision on the Spider-Man franchise, which is a very passionate fan base, and THQ working for licensed companies like Nickelodeon, Disney Pixar, DreamWorks, helping to bring their TV and movie franchises to life through gaming. And that was really exciting. And then the industry started to shift, right, from online to mobile. And I then moved to my first emerging growth startup company that was really taking a leap into the next generation mobile app through virtual and AR. And it was really exciting time, but they were before their time.
Correct.
They had this an amazing technology that was just years before their time, and so kind of fizzled out. And higher education came calling, and I got an opportunity to work for Pepperdine University in their business school, and that was truly amazing. They had a 13-year enrollment decline, and I was able to work with an amazing team to transform that through four key things. And that was through repositioning, which is key, repositioning, improved rankings, because that's important in that industry, digital center of excellence, right? Digital. And I'm sure we're going to talk about digital, right? And then execution is always key, a successful go-to-market strategy. And that really helped transform them. And then once that was established, this is interesting, the cannabis industry was booming, right? And so I got to move into the cannabis industry, helping to develop a brand portfolio strategy. And I will tell you, that was the wild, wild west, nothing regulated, craziness, but it was really fun bringing process and order to a really wild, chaotic. They got acquired and pandemic hit, and I moved into consulting, working for emerging growth startups, helping e-commerce and health and wellness companies. And now I'm back into higher education, this time on online higher education with UMass Global, and leveraging trends with people moving into the online to get their degree coming out of the pandemic, because that's kind of the shift that we're seeing. So that's my journey.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your journey. And, you've obviously worked with not just one category of brands, but from consumer brands to education to technology. You worked across multiple industries. So my next question to you, Lisa, is, given your vast experience, what goes into building a successful brand?
Well, what's interesting? The process of developing a brand is just as important as the plan itself.
Correct.
But the time spent analyzing, collaborating, building consensus is so very valuable, because you're learning so much through that process that can help elevate your brand to the next level. But that said, there are a number of key things that go into building a successful plan, right? So it's you got to conduct a situational analysis to understand the health of your your business.
Correct.
So a spot. And I find that people pass this step, and it is so critical to understanding what you need, where your weakness is, where your holes are, and how to start making yourself competitive in the marketplace. So you've got to make sure that you do that step. You've got to develop SMART goals. And marketers who develop well-defined SMART goals are 376% more likely to report success. So it's important really to make sure you're doing that step. You outline your strategies, your tactics, you set your budget. And the last step is really important. You've got this great plan, you're ready to rock and roll. You've got to be flexible and adaptable.
Correct.
So if the pandemic has taught us anything, right? All plans went out the door.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? So with the market shift, consumer behavior shifting, people had to develop all new plans, new target audiences. And so you really want to make sure that this plan is a guide, but that you're taking advantage of trends, technologies, consumer behavior shifts, all of that, so that you're flexible and adaptable.
Fascinating. And when we've started talking, you were telling me in your journey that you worked with brands which were 50 years and 100 years old. My question is, how do some brands survive 100 years and still remain contemporary? And a lot of brands spend huge money but die within a few years. What do these senior or older brands do well?
Well, I think they are adapting and changing to the environment, right? They get really good at that in terms of understanding their target audience's needs and desires. And that's important. They keep their eye on market trends. That's one, right? They innovate and evolve. So they are constantly bringing out new products, updating existing products. They're listening to their customers. What is it that's going on? What can I do to keep my brand fresh? They're building a relationship, they're building a community, they have a strong connection with their customers. They're embracing technology. One of the biggest things that I find is that brands lose that touch, lose that. So let me just give you an example, right? If you've got a younger consumer who uses chatbots, right, and they want to engage with customer service, they don't want to talk to a live person, they want to engage with customer service and use chatbots, but you don't have that. You've got to stay relevant, you've got to engage with technology to continually be relevant, and you've got to maintain a strong brand identity. That's when I see these strong brands continually be the longevity of them, 100 years old. That's what works for them. That's what makes them successful.
Well said. Great response. Thank you. My next question is, when I started in marketing 4 decades ago, there was nothing like a digital world. Your only communication was through billboards and cinema advertising and so on. But today, everything is digital. So my question is, how can brands succeed in the digital world?
Well, to thrive and adapt in order to be relevant and successful, there are a number of things that people can look at to do, right? One is to have a strong online presence.
Correct.
And in order to do that, you've got to build valuable content. Video is the most important medium content out there. And I will go into organizations and they don't have video at all.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there in order to use video content that companies aren't taking advantage of that are free, right? Instagram Shorts, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts,
Mm,
right? YouTube Short is the second biggest search engine behind Google,
mm,
right? Those are you take produce. I don't have my phone.
mm,
Okay, I got a phone in my hand, right?
mm.
Produce video. You can do it now. Phones are amazing contents to
Correct.
produce video.
Mm,
People can do this. So produce valuable content, really.
mm,
You've got to embrace digital marketing and you've got to meet your consumers where they are, whether
mm,
that's SEO, that's paid, organic, social media,
mm,
that's email marketing, whatever it is, you've got to meet them where they are. You've
mm,
got to embrace digital marketing. You've got to leverage data and analytics. You've got to figure out that, there's so much data and analytics in companies that
mm,
we can utilize that and personalize and customize to our audience now. It's
mm,
amazing. And
mm.
we've talked about stay up to date with the
Yeah,
technology. You got to do it, and provide a seamless omni-channel experience.
correct.
And it's amazing how we tend to be isolated in an organization. You've got to
Mm,
figure out how to provide that
mm,
seamless
mm.
because consumers are across channel now
Correct.
and they can tell. So those are some things to
Well
keep in
said.
mind.
Well said. Thank you. Great response. The other thing related to digital, Lisa, is that given the speed at which social media moves, you get a few nanoseconds to be able to actually communicate your message. How does a brand or how does the messaging of a brand ensure it reaches the right audience at the right time through the right channels? I remember in the old days, it was right product, right price, right place, right position.
Mhm. Yeah, I love this. I love this one because it is important. You've got to have the right message at the right time. And there are four things I love to focus in on. Get to the core of it, right? You've got to understand your unique selling point in order to stand above the competition.
Mm,
Your unique selling point makes a strong first impression so that your customers can choose you versus your competitors,
mm,
right? The second is keep it simple, stupid.
mm,
KISS,
mm,
right?
mm.
Um, your goal is to engage, educate, and entertain. Consumers are busy. They have less than 20 seconds to make a buying decision,
Correct.
right?
Mm,
So if your messaging is overcomplicated, confusing, difficult to understand, you've lost them. You've completely lost them,
mm,
right?
mm,
The next thing I try and do is ruthlessly cut. What's the essence of what I'm trying to say? And then
mm,
get rid of repetition, fillers, overcomplicated things. Cut, cut, cut.
mm,
The last is get to the heart of it.
mm,
People buy emotionally and they don't realize it. And then they justify the decisions rationally,
mm,
right? And that's why it's such an effective marketing tool.
mm.
So those are the four things that I try to do in terms of brand messaging to be
Mm,
much more effective.
mm. And, when you work as an advisor to so many brand marketers, um, how do you support some of the challenges they face?
So, it depends on what their challenges are,
Hmm.
right? It could be so many different things, but it tends to be either a brand strategy issue where it's a targeting, a messaging, or it's a go-to-market strategy. They're not connecting with their audience in the right way, right? So, the first thing is really getting in and diving into the analytics and understanding what they're currently doing. And the great thing is the companies have the information right there. It's all right there.
Correct.
It's at your fingertips,
Mm,
right? It's analyzing the market, it's analyzing the data that you can currently have.
mm,
Um, it's all there. People overcomplicate
mm,
of, oh, we got to pay for all of this. Nope, it's right there. And
mm,
then you just figure out, is it a targeting issue? Is it a
mm,
messaging issue? Is it the strategy that you have and how you're connecting with your audience. You just have to figure out what is it that the challenge is that you've got, and
That's
course
it.
correct,
Well said.
and test. Quite honestly, um, quickly test it and correct, test and correct. People overcomplicate. Just do it. Let's do it. Get it
Mm,
out there, and you don't have to overcomplicate in testing either. Just get
correct.
something out there. Consumers will respond right away, or they won't.
Well said. The next question is about the pandemic, and we're I still can't say whether we are out of it or whether we keep going back into the pandemic. But the pandemic has had some serious and dramatic changes for brands and brand marketers, especially with this whole concept of work from home, e-commerce platforms delivering at home. I wanted to get your perspective on how are brands and marketers reacting to the changes that have been made. I don't know for how long, or maybe permanently, to the way they will be handling themselves in relation to the consumers.
Yeah, I think it's had a significant shift.
Mm,
Everybody has been impacted in some
correct.
way, shape, or form,
Mm,
right? Buyer shopping behaviors have shifted to online. We've seen
correct.
significant surges. I think you just mentioned that.
Mm,
Online learning has shifted. Universities have shifted more classes online. Consumers are placing a greater emphasis on health, safety, and convenience.
mm,
And uh, if you haven't shifted your business strategy, you better shift your business
correct.
strategy.
Correct.
So I have been a part of it, and I have seen where you're completely changing your target audience. You're
Mm,
updating your brand strategy. You're looking at a new target audience. You're differentiating yourself
mm,
where you might have been differentiated before. Now you're not, and you're
mm,
having to figure out, how do I differentiate myself now?
mm,
The consumer behavior is is not interested in me, and now I've got to change that whole strategy and
mm,
that approach, and now that requires a different marketing strategy. That the consumer's not interested in the channels that I was providing before, and now I've got
mm,
to have a whole marketing channel strategy
mm,
update. It's
mm,
requiring a whole shift in approach, and that's also changing the dynamics of people. So you're seeing layoffs,
mm,
right?
mm,
People hired a lot. Now we're seeing mass layoffs. We're having shift of people. You might have had locations that are closing, and now it's going online. People are working from home. You're just seeing a
mm.
huge dynamic shift in
Correct.
in in the employment structure, as well as the whole strategy of brand to marketing, and
Mm,
all of that. it's
mm,
it's a it's huge.
I agree. I agree. And it's in a, these are almost as you would refer to as tectonic shifts taking place in the world of branding and marketing. But the other
I love
aspect,
to say that, by the way.
I
That is well said. Well
okay,
said.
thank you. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing that I wanted to ask you, Lisa, was also the way technology is coming in. I mean, the metaverse, and I know that Facebook is, cooled off a little bit on Meta, but the metaverse is changing the way brands and consumers are going to be working together in 3 dimension. And companies like Nike, etc., are actually acquiring real estate on the metaverse. I'd
Right.
love to get your perspective on how is the metaverse going to change the way consumers interact with brands.
I'm the jury's out,
Mm,
I will say.
correct.
It was really hot. And now, I don't know. I mean, brands are definitely leveraging it,
Mm,
right? There's no doubt that brands are leveraging it. You're seeing it from brand immersions, right? In terms of how consumers are interacting with it, the
mm,
personalization, in terms of, virtual stores and how you can personalize your experience with the products and services that you're doing. I mean, Mercedes-Benz did that. You're seeing Gucci, Chipotle did it with Roblox, and going in
mm,
and having a whole, you can get a online coupon and then go back back into the store and use it. I mean, you're seeing some
Yeah.
really cool experiences, and some of them are really successful.
Mm.
And and some big companies are really using it to their advantage. Nike, IKEA, these big companies.
Mm.
I'm not seeing the mid and small companies
Yeah.
mass use it,
Mm.
right? I'm seeing the big boys use it. So that's where I don't know, because this is my concern, right? There's mass layoffs, the budgets are being trimmed down,
Mm.
where ROI is huge. Companies are really looking at, how is your marketing tactic going
Mm.
to deliver an ROI? That's what
Mm.
I want to know. And
Mm.
are we going to spend it on the metaverse? I don't know.
Mm.
So um, that's where I don't know if it's
Mm.
going to really come down to the next level or not.
Sure.
That's where the
I
jury's out.
completely agree. I completely agree. So I have time for two more questions, Lisa. My next question is on culture. And you worked with global brands across the whole world. I want to get your perspective on how does culture impact brands across the world? And this is more for global brands.
Yeah, well, it plays a significant role on how brands are perceived and received,
Mm.
right? So your messaging can be received great in one country and be offensive and inappropriate in another,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Mm.
Your brand imagery, your colors, your logos, your symbols can have a different meaning in one area, and in the whole in a different variety of, it could
Mm.
mean different things in different areas. Your
Mm.
brand reputation can be insensitive and disrespectful in one area and fine in another. And
Correct.
so what you need to do is, um, as you're thinking about new products, um, on a global scale,
Yeah.
you need to really think about, or even advertising campaigns.
Yeah.
New products, advertising campaigns. How do you roll that out, and how do you
Mm.
really work with the local, your local folks in that market,
Mm.
your marketing folks, your local sales, your local
Mm.
regional heads?
Mm.
How do you work with them to say, hey, how are we going to roll this out, right?
Mm.
Or as you're entering in a new market, how do you enter your product portfolio into that
Mm.
new market? And you
Mm.
really have to work with the folks on the ground to really be strategic in how you do those types of things. Roll out the product portfolio, or roll out a new product, or
Mm.
a promotion, or an advertising campaign. You have to leverage the boots on the ground.
Well said. And my last question to Lisa, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing understanding of branding and your journey as a marketer, what would you say are three lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away uh, from your journey and from our conversation when it comes to branding and marketing?
Well, for me, being a big brand person,
Mm.
I think creating a brand strategy is important for
Mm.
differentiating who you are in the marketplace, and
Yeah.
building loyalty and success.
Mm.
Uh, I've myself wrote a book on how to do a step-by-step process of doing this.
Okay.
If you want to check it out on Amazon, but
Yeah.
I think it's a critical thing in terms of differentiating yourself on the market, and you can't overlook that. The second two things are competitive differentiation. One is, you've got to continually innovate. If you stop innovating,
Mm.
you stop growing.
Yeah.
And it is the key to differentiating. If you
Mm.
look at some of the big brands out there, they're
Mm.
constantly innovating.
Yeah.
And the second is leveraging technology.
Mm.
Um, when you look at the younger generation, they're constantly seeking that technology, and you want to make sure that your brand is refreshing itself, and
Mm.
you're bringing in technology that is going to help you leverage your business from data analytics, just data analytics, right, to other things that can help you be more efficient and effective, from automation to just even new products and services. Just continually think about leveraging technology. So those are the three things I would say.
Wonderful. And before I summarize, I somehow missed talking about your book, but tell me a little bit about your book. What is the title? And I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out your book on Amazon.
Oh, thank you. It's How to Develop a Brand Strategy, a step-by-step guide, on Amazon.
Wonderful. How to Develop a Brand Strategy, a step-by-step guide by Lisa Perry. Please go and check out her book, and I will go and check it out myself. And on that note, Lisa, and your 3 amazing lessons, create a brand strategy to differentiate your brand, keep innovating, to create the differentiation, and keep leveraging technology. Thank you so much for talking to me about your journey, about so many different aspects of branding, about technology in branding, and about the metaverse. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.